So today we're talking about a movement in transition which you potentially have never even considered, but it could absolutely transform your game. So we're talking about a move in transition which I'm confident can help you take your game to the next level. The reason that many golfers don't do this is, number one, they're not aware that they should be doing it, or number two, they're actually trying to do the complete opposite because they've just got the wrong concept in their mind. If you are that golfer, this video could really unlock some better swings, some better golf, some better shots, and some more enjoyment out on the golf course. So we're going to get into that in a moment. But before we do that, if you're new here, if you're not a subscriber, there is a button down below. It is absolutely free. Hit the little bell icon as well. That just means you'll be notified each time a new video does get released. And whilst you're down there, let me know in the comments box what has helped your golf game the most in your golfing career. What's helped the most? Was it a swing tip that someone gave you? Was it some on-course advice? Let me know down in the comments box because it could well help somebody else watching this video. And if we can all help each other with our golf games, we're all going to enjoy the game that little bit more. So let's get into this. We're talking about the transition. So when the backswing stops and the downswing starts. And there is a movement which is present in, I'm going to say, kind of all great golf swings, which is really important. We have to get it in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use my golf swing as an example, not suggesting that I've got the perfect golf swing, but we're going to use it as an example. So what we're going to do here is, if you look at this golf swing, I want you to look at where my trail elbow is relative to my belt buckle, or belt line, I should say. And what you'll notice is that distance is relatively short at the setup. There's not a huge amount of distance between the two. But as I get to the top, well, you can clearly see that that elbow is quite a significant distance away from that belt line. But what happens in transition is that elbow very quickly starts to move back down to a point where, let's say here in the downswing, it's again relatively close to that belt line, and then obviously it would go through and would go through to the finish. So what we can actually say there is, if we kind of isolate that movement, as I rotate, my arms don't simply rotate around this way and my elbow doesn't stay close to my belt. My arms, as I rotate, have an element of upwards in them. And most of the time we see that. Now it would make sense, therefore, that if there's an element of upwards in the backswing, there needs to be an element of downwards in the downswing. And what we actually know from data and studies is the arms, if we look at the arms relative to the chest, when we get to the top, there's a transition. The arms often get kind of squeezed into the chest. That's the sequencing. But very, very quickly after that, the arms have to start moving what I call off the chest. And you can see how I get my arms off my chest, how my elbow starts to get closer to my belt line. When we can measure the speed of the hands, the point in the golf swing where the hands have got the most amount of speed is early. It's not down at impact. The hands speed up here and then they slow down as the energy gets released out into the golf club. The hand speed needs to be early. That is such an important move in golf. So what would that look like in a golf swing? Well, it would look something like this. We go up to the top, we make our movement and the arms come down. We reconnect that relationship. Watch what happens if I don't get my arms to go down. We go up to the top, we make our downswing, we start to rotate. At some point, the arms have got to go down. But if it's late, well, you can see where the club is, you can see just what kind of delivery that's going to give me into the ball. That's not going to produce particularly good golf shots. So that's the movement. How do you train it? We're going to use a golf ball, and we're going to give you two thoughts to work on. We're going to come to that golf ball in a moment. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about, if I ask you to stand up normally, and this is a great transition drill for the body. I love this one. Take a set up, and if I asked you to jump straight up in the air, you'd go down and you would jump up. Now, as you started to go down to create that jump, just think about where you would be. This would be directly over this, and your weight would be in the middle. If you were in a position which was, let's say, like this, that wouldn't feel like you could jump straight up. It would feel like when you pushed, you would kind of push yourself backwards. Or if you started to go more like this, again, you'd be in a strange position. So the first thing I want you to think about is, from the top of your golf swing, you need to move your body back into a position where you could jump. There's my jumping position. Notice how I've got my weight about 50-50. I've got my belt buckle underneath my sternum. I could jump from there. It's It's really good for those golfers who make this sort of movement. Again, you kind of see how that wouldn't look like in that jumping position. Or maybe the golfers who get the head lunging forwards. Again, that wouldn't look like a jumping position. So from the top, can you get yourself into that jumping position? Here I feel really, really loaded in my legs and I could then push myself straight up. It's a great little exercise for anyone who struggles with that transition and struggles with that body movement. So that's going to sort out what the body does. What about these arms? Well, this is when we're going to use our golf ball. What we've said is those arms have to come off the chest, but we need them to have a fair bit of speed. And that speed's got to be early. So we're going to take a golf ball. You're going to hold that golf ball in one or two hands, it doesn't really matter which, and you're going to make your backswing. And as you're moving into your jumping position, I want you to throw that ball down onto the ground behind you. And obviously what that's doing is it's helping my arms get down and off my chest. So that would look a little bit like this. We go up to the top, we'd make this movement with the body, and we'd throw the ball down. So what we're really training here is we're training the body moving and initiating the downswing. But as the body's making that movement, the arms are starting to move down towards the ground pretty early in the golf swing. That's absolutely key. So we do that again, we go up to the top, and we make that move. There's my jumping position, and the ball hit the ground here. So we go up, and we come down. Okay. So what would this do in your golf swing? Well, this would effectively lower the golf club. So there's lots of talk about shallowing the club shaft and laying the club shaft down, and there's lots of golfers out there who do that. I think it's beneficial for some, but it's not essential. Take a look at someone like Rory. Rory McIlroy, that is, if you weren't sure. Rory doesn't really shallow the club, but what he does is he lowers it. So if we look at someone like a Rory McIlroy, if we take his shaft angle at the top, the angle stays the same, but he absolutely lowers it. How does he lower it? Well, his arms are starting to work down off his chest. You can see that this logo is being revealed as I do that. At the top of my golf, and that logo is hidden. As I start my downswing, the arms are working down. I reveal the logo, the club shaft is lowering. I'm not necessarily flattening it. So this would be a flattening or a shallowing move. We're not really talking about that in this video. We're talking about lowering the arms. Now, if I look at the majority of the golfers that I coach, what would turn them, or what would give them a better delivery position? I've actually done a video really recently on delivery position. You can find that one here in the corner. Well, they would generally benefit from a club shaft which is lowered and hands which are lower. That would benefit them. How do you get that? Well, this is the key move. So once you've done a couple of those exercises with the ball, you can start to do that with a golf club. Take your address, move up to the top, and you start to make that movement there. Arms are coming down. So I'm starting to work my arms down off my chest as I'm transitioning. Okay, I'm certainly not trying to keep them pinned across my shoulders for as long as I can, because as I say, when they do eventually go down, it's going to be very much across the golf ball. Now here's another great little drill that you can do, which I love. And you're going to need, I've got 2 alignment sticks here. You don't need 2, but they work well because they make a bit of a noise. You're going to hold them like a golf club at one end. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to, from the top, force my arms down as we've discussed, but break them over my right thigh. So they're going to slow down. And what we should see is these 2 ends here start to go down towards the ground. So there's a little bit of force. So it should look like this. Notice when I stop, where my hands are relative to my chest, where my elbow is relative to my belt line, and where that was relative to the top of the golf swing, it does not look the same. So this is a great little drill for you to start to move those hands much quicker off your chest. Like I said right at the start, this is such an important move, and there's a very good chance that you weren't aware of this move, or you weren't conscious of it, or you weren't sort of doing it correctly, or even worse, you were trying to do the opposite. You were trying to leave your hands as high as you can as you turned. There are a couple of occasions where that's helpful, but generally it's going to hurt more than it helps. So I've got a little jumping exercise, which is one. I've got a ball throwing exercise, which is 2, and I've got some alignment sticks, which is my 3rd exercise. Once I use those, that should start to give me a pretty good concept, a pretty good idea, and some pretty good feels as to what I'm trying to do in the golf swing. When we introduce that golf club, those become incredibly important, because I've got to try and use those ideas, those feels, those concepts to now implement into my golf swing. Okay, just a 7-iron, but strike was good, flight was good, result is good. And I was able to hit that shot because as I transitioned with my body, my arms very quickly came down and off my chest. That is the key move that we're talking about in this video. If you can add that, you can train that, you can nail that move, you can hit some better golf shots, I guarantee it, because there are so many golfers that I see who could really benefit from this move in transition in the early downswing. It's also probably going to help you a little bit of distance as well, because the earlier we can get those hands to increase their speed, the more club head speed we should have down at the impact area. Right, thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below. There's a comments box down there, there's a like button, all those kind of things, and there's a subscribe link there that we spoke about earlier. Thanks for watching.